Hi, welcome back to my channel. This video review is for The Book of Hope by Jane Goodall and Douglas Abrams. And it also said with Gail Hudson. Yes, Gail Hudson. And it's a survivor's guide to 4 trying times. Now, this book is already released, but I got it as an audiobook ARC. It came out in October of 2021. I believe it's probably a hardcover if you were to buy it, but because I got it as an early copy, I got it in that format. So when I get books, I usually get some sort of a letter, and this will help me to know when I put this book on social media so that other people can find it. First of all, I didn't do this in my other 2 videos. I didn't thank the publisher, but the publisher for this book is Celadon Books. And I want to thank Celadon for this book. I might even shoot one of my other videos over again. I don't know. I have to think about that. But anyway, it says, a note from Jane Goodall. We are going through dark times. There is armed conflict in many parts of the world, racial and religious discrimination, hate crimes, terrorist attacks, a political swing to the far right fueling demonstrations and protests that all too often become violent. The gap between the haves and have-nots is widening and fomenting anger and unrest, and the climate crisis, temporarily pushed into the background, is even greater than our future, indeed, to all life on Earth as we know it. But each time I became depressed, I think of all the amazing stories of the courage, steadfastness, and determination of those who are fighting the forces of evil. Probably the question I am asked more often than any other is, do you honestly believe there is hope for our world, for the future of our children and grandchildren? And I am able to answer truthfully, yes. Signed by Jane Goodall. Okay? So, this book was a great book. I can honestly admit in the last 2 decades, I haven't watched anything with Jane Goodall, maybe even the past 3 decades. But I did for years. And I'm grateful that I got to know her through the television screen. Her love for animals, most notably dogs and chimpanzees, is something for the record books. And she's a very inspirational woman. I think she's 84 years old now. But before we talk about the contents of the book, let's read the summary about the book. It's written in black, yellow on black, so I'm going to turn this light on. In a world that seems so troubled, how do we hold on to hope? Because the book is called The Book of Hope. Looking at the headlines, the worsening climate crisis, a global pandemic, loss of biodiversity, political upheaval, it can be hard to feel optimistic. And yet hope has never been more desperately needed. In this urgent book, Jane Goodall, the world's most famous living naturalist, and Douglas Abrams, the internationally best-selling co-author of The Book of Joy, explore through intimate and thought-provoking dialogue one of the most sought-after and least understood elements of human nature, hope. In The Book of Hope, Jane focuses on her 4 reasons for hope. They are the amazing human intellect, the resilience of nature, the power of young people, and the indomitable human spirit. Drawing on decades of work that has helped to expand our understanding of what it means to be human and what we all need to do to build a better world. The Book of Hope touches on vital questions, including how do we stay hopeful when everything seems hopeless? How do we cultivate hope in our children? What is the relationship between hope and action? Filled with moving and inspirational stories and photographs from Jane's remarkable career, The Book of Hope is a deeply personal conversation with one of the most beloved figures in the world today. While discussing the experiences that shaped her discoveries and beliefs, Jane tells a story of how she became a messenger of hope, from living through World War II to her years in Gombe, to realizing she had to leave the forest to travel the world in her role as an advocate for environmental justice. And for the first time, she shares her profound revelations about her next and perhaps final adventure. The second book in the Global Icon series, which launched with the instant classic, The Book of Joy, which I still want to read that. That's with His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. The Book of Hope is a rare and intimate look not only at the nature of hope, but also into the heart and mind of a woman who revolutionized how we view the world around us and has spent a lifetime fighting for our future. There is still hope, and this book will help guide us to it. Beautiful, beautiful summary. Pictures here. Here's one of the chimpanzees that Jane worked with. The book is full of pictures. I love it. Let me see, find something else. When she was in, where was she at? Tanzania. Children in Tanzania, because she loved children, more children. So the book is full of beautiful pictures, all black and white, of course. There you go, even more. So let's talk about the chapters or the sections in this book. The first section, number 1, is what is hope? And for example, is hope real? Have you ever lost hope? Can science explain hope? How can we have hope in trying times? Now, this book was written last year, but now, today, in 2022, Russia has invaded the Ukraine. Both military and civilians are dying in droves. So, how can we have hope in all of this? Then we have Jane's 4 reasons for hope. Reason number 1 is the amazing human intellect. Number 2 is the resilience of nature. Number 3 is the power of young people. And number 4 is the indomitable human spirit. And then the last section, section 3, is how she became a messenger of hope. So she spent years in Gombe, Africa, but she left the jungle, and started traveling the world over. As a matter of fact, she created the Jane Goodall. The Jane Goodall Institute was created, and I believe there are 31 chapters all over the world. So, the thing that I want to bring out the most in this book is the indomitable human spirit. This was a chapter or a section, because there were 5 chapters in this section, when we learn that there's a difference between optimism and pessimism. We can choose to be optimistic by having an indomitable spirit. But in order to have this indomitable spirit, we must teach it to our children so that they can teach it to their children. And then how this spirit can help us to heal. So I loved the whole book, don't get me wrong. I loved her stories, and I'll tell you how her stories were related, but I loved all of it. But that's, every time I read a book, even if it's a fiction book, I try to see what appeals to me most and what can help me to grow more. And it was having a spirit of positivity and not negativity, or not being pessimistic but being optimistic. So that would be the 4th reason in her reason for hope. So I just wanted to bring that out. Now, how was this book delivered? First of all, if I have books that I got from publishers that have been released by the time I get to read them, I will always go to my library to see if I can grab them. And that's what I did. I got a digital copy of this book. An audio copy of this book. And I got to listen to it. I am so glad that I did, because it's an interview. It's a series of interviews. It's an interview by Douglas Abrams. He's interviewing Jane Goodall. And the first several interviews, he went to her where she was, and he interviewed her in person. They had one more section of the interview to do, but by the time he got to that last part of the questions that he had formulated, the pandemic had hit. So they had to do their last interview via Zoom. I loved that last interview, because when he was traveling to see Jane, she was living wherever she was living at the time when he was doing the interviews. But she lives on the East Coast, and when he did the Zoom interview with her, she was in her own environment, and she got to show him pictures and things that that she had collected over the years, things that had been given to her, things that were special to her. And do you know, when I was listening to Jane describe all of these individual items to Doug, I felt like I was in her house taking a tour with her. That's the feeling you get when you read the Book of Hope. You're right there with Jane Goodall, a strong, resilient woman who never lost hope, and she doesn't want us to lose hope either. Excellent, excellent book. I'm so glad that I read it. So I will get this review uploaded to you guys. I want to thank you for your time and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.